What we all thought was going to happen did happen. Mark Stone, after missing 26 games with a lacerated spleen, came into game one and was pretty much as good as new. Not only did he look amazing, he played a ton of minutes, he also scored the opening goal and the biggest goal of the game and will lead Vegas on to a win because of course he did. As a heartbroken Dallas Stars fan, today we're going to be breaking down all of the LTIR drama, the wackiness that was game one, and what the rest of this series could look like, and if Mark Stone and the Vegas Golden Knights could go on another cup run. So make sure you watch till the end for all of the playoff talk, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey and playoff content just like this all throughout the summer. We got tons of breakdowns coming for you guys, so you won't want to miss a thing. Now we're going to start the breakdown here today with Mark Stone's transactions over the last 3 seasons via cap friendly, and nothing fishy here. Mark Stone always gets injured around February and March, and then is on LTIR for this foreseeable future, and then right when the playoffs begin is pretty much healthy and ready to go. And to think that I was so delusional earlier this year in January saying that you love to see a full healthy season out of the guy. He hadn't missed a game back in January, but of course it was just a matter of time. And of course, with a myriad of issues before, with back surgery last year, Mark Stone finds himself injured again back in March with a lacerated spleen, out of course for the rest of the regular season. Now here's the thing, Vegas was in a playoff race. They were still trying to make the playoffs at this point, so obviously not having Mark Stone did hurt them, but when you consider the amount that they were able to bring into the deadline and how still likely they were to make the playoffs, if they were to make it, everything would have aligned pretty perfectly. And it absolutely did, as just a few days ago, Mark Stone was cleared to practice in a non-contact jersey, and shortly thereafter in a contact jersey, and was pretty much ready to go. Naturally, the Vegas Golden Knights would waste virtually no time getting on the board, and of course, Mark Stone in front of the net makes it 1-0 because there was no other way this could have happened. Did you really think there was no way Stone was going to score? Are you out of your friggin' mind? Of course, the hockey gods knew this was going to happen. They wrote this script a millennia ago just to hurt me personally. And of course, the Golden Knights would continue to absolutely decimate the Stars in that first period. And even though the Stars would make it close at points, this game was pretty much over within the first few minutes. You also already knew that Tomas Hertl, a big-time contract they were able to add at the deadline, would score at a big moment too to make it 3-1. Almost making matters worse, Mark Stone almost scored on an empty net. I would have been done. And characteristically for the Stars versus the Knights in the playoffs, they would end up losing this game one, absolutely blowing it away and really losing it within those first 10 minutes, Mark Stone being a big part of that. And in the end, in his first game back from a lacerated spleen, Mark Stone had a goal, he had 1 point, he had 1 shot on goal, 1 block, and ended up playing 17 minutes and 9 seconds. As Stony Oil mentions, Mark Stone played 1 minute and 38 seconds less than Connor McDavid tonight. Medical miracle for a guy unfit to play 4 days ago. And when you look at it too, among all Vegas forwards in that game one, Mark Stone actually played the second most minutes, right ahead of Chandler Stevenson at 17:05 and behind Jack Eichel. Pretty good minutes for a guy, again, that was pretty much unhealthy up to this point. Mark Stone, also being the perfect heel right now, also had a great quote after the game saying, "I guess they don't like me when it comes to the booze." And he knows, everybody knows just how much us in Dallas booed Mark Stone in that game one. So much so that he couldn't even hear the question that Leah Hextall was saying. That's how much the entire league has its eyes on this situation, that almost everybody in Dallas knows and is making sure that Mark Stone knows that they know. And one of my main concerns coming into this playoff series for Vegas was that there was going to be a lack of chemistry because of all the switching up until this game. With Mark Stone coming in, with all the new faces there, I felt like we could see some discomfort around the lineup, but that wasn't the case. They played a great game one, stifled Dallas in a lot of ways defensively, and looked completely fine chemistry-wise. There was almost no problem getting into game shape without full lineup, which is a scary thing. I think system-wise, you can maybe make the case that Vegas was better last year, but I think in terms of pure on-paper players, Vegas is even more scary than they were last season when they were the best team by far winning the Stanley Cup. And of course, of all teams the Dallas Stars had to face, they had to face the lowly second wildcard Vegas Golden Knights, who were a sleeping giant waiting to wake up with all these new players coming into game one and making an impact. And the worst part is that I can't even be that mad about it. it. I've seen a lot of people calling Vegas cheaters, calling this whole situation warping the NHL rules, but the unfortunate part is that the NHL is completely fine with it, and what Vegas is doing isn't actually breaking any rules whatsoever. As Gord Miller mentions, it was the same situation with Patrick Kane in Chicago in 2015, with Nikita Kucherov and the infamous 2021 hip surgery and going into the playoffs after missing a full season, and also Vegas isn't new to this either, with doing it with Stone before as well. Everything that Vegas did, being LTIR compliant, putting Mark Stone on there, acquiring players at the deadline, loading up for the playoffs, everything that they have done is perfectly okay by the NHL, and that is the worst part. I think we need to focus the blame not on these teams that take advantage of it, because let's be honest, every team that could take advantage of it should. And the smart teams like Tampa and Vegas, they don't care about the reputation. They care about winning the Stanley Cup, which is all that should matter to them. The problem is that it's the NHL that is making this situation okay, making it within the rule books to be as suspicious as you possibly can. And Vegas isn't doing anything wrong. Tampa didn't do anything wrong. Chicago didn't do anything wrong. But you get a little bit of a trend here where the teams that are taking advantage of it are doing pretty well in the playoffs. And it's a trend that is continued on to this year. This is something that, in my opinion, absolutely 100% needs to be addressed in the next CBA. It's something that shouldn't be allowed. It's something that if you talk to the casual fan about, they're going to say, well, why is this something that could happen? Why is this something that could be allowed? And we don't even have an answer for that. That to me is the biggest concern here, is that it is fine for the NHL that this continues to happen, and it really shouldn't be. The main issue for me is that there's not really a sizable complete fix. There has been some people suggesting that if you want to play in the playoffs that you have to play in game 82, but what if a player just gets injured in game 81, can't play in game 82, and then is out for the rest of the playoffs? That doesn't seem too fair to me. There's also the issue that if a player actually has an injury that they're actually out for game 82 and they've been out for a while, they could be ready for game 1 of the playoffs, and it could line up actually conveniently and ethically. But there also is, of course, with this whole LTIR situation, an incentive for teams to be patient, an incentive for teams to be, just wait until game 1 of the playoffs. It won't hurt you that much. Unfortunately for the NHL, there's no real way to verify every single case unless you go case by case, auditing every player and every team and making sure they cannot play or could play in any given circumstance. It's always going to be a little bit fishy. It's always going to be a little bit weird unless you make hard lines in the sand, and that might be what they have to do. Now, there was an interesting thread here by Michael Amato talking about this situation, and his first tweet said, "It definitely sounds like Mark Stone had a legitimate injury, but it'd be very simple to implement a rule that if you want to play game 1 of the playoffs, you have to play game 82 of the regular season." And then Daniel Freeman comes to a response saying, "What happens if you get injured in game 81 but are ready in time for the playoffs?" And then Michael says, "Would only be an LTIR situation. If you're on LTIR for game 82, you can't play game 1. Don't think someone injured in game 81 can go on LTIR and then play game 1. And that is actually a pretty interesting point, that maybe it only applies to LTIR. It only applies to those players that go to LTIR and can actually affect the cap space for certain teams. That could be maybe the middle ground the NHL could reach, is making sure the LTIR part of it is actually covered and is actually a lot more legitimate, because of course with how much LTIR affects teams' caps and makes it a lot better if those players go on LTIR, that could be something that could de-incentivize this whole thing. I think this is about as good of a middle ground as you could possibly get. This won't really fix the issue completely, because you'll likely still have some teams playing their guys in game 82 just to make sure they're ready for game 1 and don't have to have any penalty against them. But to me, it could maybe stop a little bit of the fishiness going around and de-incentivize it a little bit, especially if they could not play in game 1 of the playoffs. That could be a huge factor for a lot of teams. Game 1 is always a huge factor in every series, and not having one of your key players would absolutely hurt. The thing is, for me though, I wish my team did this. I wish my team was able to take advantage of it, because it's something that every team should be taking advantage of. I don't blame any GM for doing this, for making this happen, for making it work, because that's what they're getting paid for. They're getting paid to win Stanley Cups. They're getting paid to be as good as possible and use every rule in the rule book for and against other teams. And that's what Kelly McCrimmon is doing. That's what every GM that has used this rule to their advantage has done. And it works, and it will continue to work until the NHL does something about it. it. But I think every GM out there should try to use it, should try to make this loophole work because it just makes teams better. Why shouldn't you? You're getting paid to manage an NHL team, and it makes your NHL team better for the playoffs. As a Stars fan, though, it hurts, especially with how much Vegas has owned us recently. The fact that they already have this chemistry-filled lineup in game one somehow, some way, and it's already working. It's just brutal, man. But the thing for me is that I don't like complaining. I don't like whining in situations like this, especially when it comes to my favorite team. I'm always a proponent that, you know, the refs can influence games, but stop blaming them for your team losing. In this situation, it hurts, but the Stars didn't play like they should have in game one. They got stifled in a lot of ways. And sure, did Vegas come in 100% healthy and have some chemistry? That is true, but I still think this Stars team can beat them in that lineup, can beat that team in the end. And they just simply had to play better. They didn't in game one, and I hope that changes going forward. I'm not in the whining business, man. I just hope the Stars are able to rebound, that Jake Onger stops being a sieve, and we can actually get some momentum going in this series. Go Stars, baby. And if you want to join the Stars train against the Vegas Golden Knights, we'll happily welcome you on board. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this breakdown. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Comment down below. I want to know all your thoughts on this Vegas LTIR situation. Which side are you on? Are you okay with it? Are you against it? Do you think it needs to change? Do you want to see your team take advantage of it? I want to know all your thoughts down below. And also your thoughts on the rest of the Dallas-Vegas series, how you think it goes, if your predictions have changed after game one. Let me know all your thoughts down below. Of course, share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Get the shenanigans out there and click on this card for all of my playoff talk right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I will see you in the next one. Have a fantastic hockey day, and goodbye.